My coworker may be a vampire. A story written by Atrocicus. A link to their original Reddit post will be available in the description down below. I used to work with a guy who I swear was a vampire, and he was the reason I got a job as a cryptozoologist and monster hunter. Now, before you give me the whole vampires aren't real, how stupid could you be reaction, just let me explain why I believe this. When this happened, I was a paramedic, and I was working midnight to 8:30 a.m. for about 3 years. I came into work one night to see a stranger standing in the meeting hall, and the first thing I noticed was that his skin was as pale as freshly fallen snow, and it had a bluish glow to it. Of course, it wasn't the sparkle that everyone associates with Twilight, but it was still odd. I soon learned that he was my new coworker, and he was nervous about his first day on the job. The second thing I noticed about him was that he didn't have a shadow. We had extremely bright fluorescent lights in the corridor, and every other employee in the hospital that passed under them cast a shadow. I shrugged it off as we gathered in the briefing room. I needed to be focused, and the weird new guy couldn't be my priority. Travis, our head paramedic, greeted us before barking out his usual orders. "Good morning, men. I hope you all got your beauty sleep in, though I could see some of you clearly didn't because tonight is going to be another busy night. There have already been 5 accident reports." I was surprised at the amount of reports that had already come through, since we normally didn't get any the half hour between midnight and 12:30 a.m. We finished debriefing, then we got our gear together and headed out in our usual teams. I took a quick mental note of who would be on my team tonight, and I was surprised to see the new guy sitting in the passenger seat of my ambulance. I walked up to the window, a friendly smile upon my face. I couldn't remember if Travis said he would be with me, but I wanted to make sure that he felt welcomed. "Hey, good morning. I noticed you're new here. Do you know if you have the right team?" An eerie, too wide smile crawled across his face as he turned to me, and I gasped. He had incredible tangerine-colored eyes, and I took a step back in shock. His voice was like gravel. It irritated something in the primal part of my subconscious. "I am with the correct team, Hunter, and my name is Callan." By that point I was nearly wetting myself. I had always been a little on the jumpy side, but this was too... How did he have that color of eyes? How did he know my name? These thoughts were rushing through my head, but then rational thought hit me. The guy probably saw my name tag or heard someone else call me by my name. That, however, did not explain the hue of orange his eyes radiated. I faked an awkward smile, then climbed into the ambulance as far from him as I could get. 10 minutes later we arrived to the scene of our first accident. It was out in the middle of nowhere on Dark Shade Road, which is in my hometown of Windber, Pennsylvania. In the past 3 years I have seen some nasty accidents, like decapitation, people being thrown from the car and found dead 25 feet away, and unlucky family pets mangled from impact, but none of that compared to what I saw that night. In the driver's seat of the car sat a man, and we barely recognized him as one of the town's founding family members. Blood was spattered everywhere in the car, and the scene looked like a horror movie where a head got fried in the microwave. It took all I could muster to hold my breakfast in, and I can honestly say that was one of the hardest things I had done up to that point. Upon further inspection, it appeared he had his throat ripped out, and it didn't seem to be from impact considering the bite marks located near his jugular. The new guy looked even more freaked out than I did, but not quite in the same way. It almost appeared like he was trying to hold in the urge to eat a juicy, rare steak. As we began our cleanup, his angry expression nagged at me, and I couldn't let it go. About an hour after we arrived, the police finally showed up, and Captain Robertson repetitively apologized for being late. She explained that she had to show up to 5 other scenes, all of which were nearly identical to this one. I pulled her to the side, keeping my voice hushed as I questioned her. Lana, this is a freaking nightmare. What do you think could have done something like this? Without responding, she pulled me even further away from my team, her voice coming out as an exhausted whisper. I don't want to jump the gun, but the last time something like this happened was 50 years ago when the Gallo family came back to town. It took a moment for the name Gallo to register. Then I recalled where I'd heard it. I remember my father mentioning something like that, but what he told me was the same story all of our parents told us to keep us from sneaking out after dark. Look, I don't know what's going on, Captain, but we've got to get to the bottom of this before there's another mass panic. This town hasn't seen a lynching in 5 decades, and I don't want to derail that record tonight. She nodded, casting a tired glance back at the accident scene. Well, let's just hope that it's a rabid cougar or a wolf attack. After our conversation, we went back to cleaning up the scene, and I noticed the new guy looking at me as he stood a good distance away. Because of his strange behavior, I approached him to make sure he was okay, and I made an effort to sound jocular as I approached him. Not everyone responded well to death jokes, but I hoped that it might ease the tension a little. What's the matter? Never seen a bloodbath before? I hear they do wonders for the skin. It's not that. He had a strange tone to his voice, and it halted me in my tracks. I think I may know what could have happened here, and I fear I am correct. I need to take care of things at home, so please inform Travis that I am sorry. I have to take the rest of the night off. What do you mean? As the team head, I highly suggest that if you have any idea what may have caused this, you tell me immediately. There was 4 other animal attacks exactly like this tonight, and I am worried that this isn't the end. He paused, but then drooped his head sadly. I watched him inhale, and his next words were so quiet that I nearly missed them. It was most likely my sister Jezebel who had a hand in this. Immediately after the response, Kellen walked back towards the ambulance, and he disappeared behind a few of the police officers. When I saw him the next night, I realized that I was angry at him for walking off the scene like that, and my words came out more chilled than I had meant for them to. What the hell was up with you last night? He just shrugged, his face expressionless as he responded. There are things in this world you would not understand. Let me take care of this, since I do not want to see any more humans in this town hurt. Humans? That one word brought up so many other questions. What did he mean by that? Was he not human? Were my ancestors right? And there were such things as monsters? Were the stories my father and grandfather told real accounts, rather than the fictional stories I had believed them to be? Was I truly the descendant of monster hunters? There's no way. I must have spoken out loud because he turned his head to face me. In barely a second, he had moved across the hall, and he was staring at me with a gloating smirk. Oh, so you finally realized that the stories your family had passed down were real? You are the slow little slug. What? How do you know that? Your family has always been close to mine, Hunter. The LaCrosse family has provided us with the necessary means to feed for hundreds of years, and we even occasionally marry one of you. Why do you think every male in your family has been a paramedic dating back to the Revolutionary War? The fact that he knew my family were paramedics all the way to the 1700s terrified me, because that wasn't even documented in any of the dank old history books rotting away in the public library. Was he a vampire? Was this why he looked so disturbed last night? Did Callan know my family better than I did? I wanted to question him more, but it was time to head out, and I didn't want Travis yelling at us for being late. Just like the night before, we came upon a grueling scene, and as we were removing the body from the car, I looked over at my weird coworker. Look, Callan, I think I know what you are, which means I probably know what your sister is. Can you explain more to me about our family's histories, or at least tell me how we can stop your sister? At this rate, she's going to take out half the town by the end of this month. Hunter, I do not know how to tell you this. My sister wants human blood, and the only way for us to stop her in this state is to kill her. I have tried feeding her what I have gotten from the hospital, but she has gone ravage. He took a shuddering breath, and even in the midst of the craziness, I felt bad for him. No amount of blood will satiate her primal hunger. Most of the others in my family are getting by well, drinking the blood I bring back from work. But she is not. Do you still have your family journal? Your father, bless his soul, was there the last time this happened. He alone was capable of taking down my brother, Milton. This is nuts. Look, just find the book and get some supplies that we will need. You are intelligent enough to figure this out. Stuff? What stuff? This doesn't make any sense. At least find some vampire repellent or you will likely die. With that, Callan disappeared into the night again, his pale silhouette vanishing behind a tree. It left me wondering what in the hell he meant about my father being there last time this happened, and about the repellent. Just how many times had this happened, and why was it never in the news? Until it hit me what the chief said about 50 years ago this happened. My family's stories were indeed fact, not fiction.